Developing sources. Sources come in all shapes and forms. Some will be easier to deal with than others. Some more media savvy, some more reluctant. The way they will respond to you will be affected by which media outlet you represent, how much experience you have, how confident you are in presenting yourself, and how sensitive to their situation. But if you put all that aside for a moment, at the core of developing a source is building trust. If you tell someone that you write for the New York Times or broadcast for the BBC, yes, that goes a long way. If you're a household name, or your source recognizes your voice from the radio, or your face from the telly, great. But the main thing is, especially if you're starting out, to make sure that your source trusts that you are there to understand the story and to tell the truth, that you will not misrepresent the facts. This is a lot harder if someone has suffered a tragedy, lost a loved one, been a victim of violence or a crime. And it means you will need to work harder to gain their trust. But your job will be easier if the source needs publicity, or they are media trained and know how the circus works. Let's look at some imaginary scenarios. Let's imagine that I am covering the Grenfell story, that I work for the BBC as a news producer, that I need an expert to appear on BBC Radio 4's World at One programme to explain the problem. Let's say I do not have any contacts in that field, and I am starting from scratch. Where should I begin? I can start by searching for Firefighters Association. My top 3 results are British Fire Services Association, Fire Brigades Union, and Fire and Rescue Services Association. That tells me that whoever I find within these organizations will be talking favorably of the firefighters. After all, these are campaigning groups for the firefighters. All 3 have contact details. You are ideally looking for a telephone number to be able to quickly speak to someone. Emails are fine if you're not in a rush. Out of the 3, only the Brigades Union lists a number for a press office. I'll go with that one. If there's only a general number, you can always ask to be connected to the press office. This is how I would start the call. Hello, my name is Ali May, and I'm a producer with BBC Radio 4. Today's World at One will be doing a deep dive on the Grenfell fire. We would like to invite a spokesperson from the union to take part in the programme. The press officer will ask me a number of questions that I'd better know the answers for. Is this live or pre-recorded? Is the format a one-to-one interview or a panel discussion? If a panel discussion, who are the other guests? Who is the presenter of the programme today? Do you have any questions you can share in advance? Not exhaustive, but is a pretty good list. Sometimes you will not have all the answers because you haven't heard back from other guests, in which case you can say exactly that and promise to be updating them in time. If I do work for the BBC, I should know that balance is what the BBC wants to broadcast. That means I will need to find another contributor that will possibly disagree with my guest from the Fire Brigades Union. For this, I would try and find someone who has been campaigning to make emergency services more transparent, or perhaps someone who already has a case against the fire service. Regardless of what angle your source might have on the story you're working on, you will treat them with respect and without prejudice. Go through your 3 lists and think about what kind of sources you need for each story. Do your research and find 3 sources for each story. Can you find contact details for them? Write a short paragraph about each, almost like a mini bio, that gives your reader the context and the reason why you would speak to them.